Oh, we're way past peanut butter and jelly time. It's showtime. Hey everyone, and welcome to Groove Builders, the show where we create together. I'm your host, Disorderlycone, and as a time-traveling model builder, it's pretty easy to travel through time, but keeping track of current time can be a little wibbly-wobbly. And with us trying to be able to fight this almighty YouTube algorithm to spread the word, we need to get a little bit better about, uploading on a regular basis. So to be able to do that, our friends over at Metal Time did something pretty cool. The Great Bell. That's right, not only are we going to be building a clock, we're going to be building the Elizabeth Tower, the most iconic of clocks. How is Metal Time's interpretation of this particular piece? What are the tricky bits, and will it actually work? These are all great questions, and we're going to get the answers. Let's get down to the workbench and open up our package. And just like that, we begin our build, the Great Bell from Metal Time. And before we get too far along, it's kind of important for us to be able to go over the tools that you're going to need to be able to build it. Now, with Metal Time models, a lot of our tools actually come in the kit. And one of my favorites is these little gloves right here. These are perfect for us to be able to put our parts together without getting our fingerprints all over them. Now, yes, the parts might be a little hard to put together because you are dealing with slippery surfaces. However, not having to deal with the whole fingerprints on your pieces is a lot better. So if you can deal with it, I highly recommend building with these. Next up, we have our cleaning cloth. This is very useful for the finishing product of our model and getting all the little fuzzies that might be left over from our gloves or any fingerprints that might have gotten on there somehow during the building process. A neat little piece of kit and one that you definitely want to keep around. Next up, we have the almighty rasp. Now the rasp is a super important tool because once we get all of our pieces out of our metal sheets, sometimes we have these little burrs left over. These little pieces of metal can get in the way of our parts coming together correctly and actually can cause the whole model look wonky or even not to go together at all. I highly recommend making sure all of your pieces are super smooth and using your white glove on the edge just to make sure that nothing gets caught. This way, you know for 100% sure that that edge is super smooth. If you find your glove is getting caught, just take a little bit more of a sand on there and everything should work. The next tool in our toolkit is a pair of pliers. Now, these are super useful for shaping all of our pieces and of course, getting all of those tabs to be properly secured. Now, these are highly useful. I like the way they are done, and of course, with their nice little pointy edge there, it is useful for getting inside some of our pieces. However, there is a better tool that you might want to invest in that doesn't come inside of the kit, and that, my friends, is a good pair of tweezers. These guys right here are great for so many reasons. Not only are they great for getting into our model and actually securing the tabs, but they're also great for different shapes, especially our longer shapes, because we can put them inside the center of our tweezers and shape them properly, which you'll see me do a couple of times in our build. The last tool that I'm going to recommend is one that we built here on the show, and that is the Bender 1.0 tool. Now, currently, we don't have any more of these available on the store, but we will be loading up with a brand new model very soon, which I can't wait to share with all of you out there. We just have to get some final touches before I release that version. If you're desperate for something similar to this and you can't find one right now, there are some great tutorials online on how to build your own at home with some wood and metal around your house. And maybe we should actually do that here on the show sometime. Anyway, let's get back to the model. Rectangles, squares, and more rectangles. That's pretty much the entire build here, but don't let that fool you. There are some difficult details that we're going to have to attach, but don't worry, we're going to go over them together. The first part right here is probably one of the trickier bits. Those little side details there. Yes, those little side details are kind of hard to put onto our edges because they need to be exactly lined up for them to be able to go where they need to go. Now, I tried a couple of different methods to be able to get them into their place, and one of the best ways that I found was to go ahead and bend the part about 90% of the way, leaving the middle there kind of open. This way you can secure one side of our tabs and then bend the center, allowing the other tabs to fall in place, and you can secure them that way. If you need to straighten anything up, you can use your tweezers or the pliers to be able to help you with that. Just be careful not to squish the detail. It's a lot easier than you might think. Page 3. Now I know that these four corners look like they're attached, but they're not. And as a matter of fact, they're going to be used to hold the upper part of our tower in place by some outward pressure. So don't feel totally bad if they don't line up just perfectly, but of course you do want to make sure that everything is nice and symmetrical. Onto our clock. Now in this particular case, we only have one working clock and the other faces just have a piece of metal in place. The best thing for us to be able to do is ensure that all of our hands are facing the same direction. This way it doesn't look all wonky when we set it up on a display. The best way I found to do this was to line up all of our parts on the table and then bend them all the same way. This way you know 100% sure that you didn't bend anyone the wrong way. Our roof details. Now these aren't particularly difficult. The hard part actually comes in trying to get the tabs in the proper spot. Personally, I found if I just bent them out just a little bit, I was able to get the top piece down and in place quite easily. Lining up the tabs to the roof, though, can be a little bit hard, and you might need to use a little bit of force to get them in place. Just be careful not to squish the details. That's a lot easier to do than you might think. All right, now we're just putting our final bits into place. And unfortunately, I forgot a part there a little bit earlier, but that's okay because we were able to figure out exactly where it needed to go and it didn't actually impact this too much. But it's a good thing to remember to always double check your pieces and parts before going forward, or otherwise you'll end up like me. If you're struggling with this particular piece, try going to one corner at a time and attaching the tabs that way. This will make everything kind of line up a little easier, just because sometimes when we bend squares, they're not perfectly square all the way around, and that's how this becomes such a tricky part to put together. But I'm sure if you have a little bit of perseverance and take your time, everything will look really nice. Okay, let's finish up this guy, why don't we? And boom, there we have it, the Great Bell from Metal Time in all of its glory. This build was a lot of fun to put together, and quite easy too, being that the majority of it was just 90-degree bends. Yes, there are some things that we need to speak about. Mostly the little detail here at the bottom can be a little bit tricky, especially if you're new to 3D metal models. Getting these little guys in here can cause some warping and definitely some misshaping. So do your best here to really take your time and do what I kind of said. Bend it about 80% of the way, maybe about 90% of the way. Get one side in first, then work the other side in. It will make the whole thing a lot easier for you. Another thing that I kind of had a bit of an issue with was that this was marketed with a light attached into the middle here, a little tiny light. Unfortunately, this light does not come inside the kit, which means that at the end, you need to go find one that can actually fit inside. Personally, I had a little bit of difficulty finding one that would fit inside, and right now I'm actually having to wait, although I'm sure you saw the pictures there with the light inside. I was going to put a candle in here, but being that there is some metal and I'm not entirely too sure about how the whole thing would go, I just don't think it's a good idea at the moment. I'm not saying you couldn't do it, I'm sure you could, but you just need a small candle, even smaller than a normal tea light, because this little area here is just so tiny. Overall, I still highly recommend this model for any builder out there who is looking to add the Elizabeth Tower to their collection and wants something that really stands out. This one here is just really pretty, and I can't deny how great this looks, especially when you compare it to some of the other ones out in the market, like ones from, Metal Earth or even Peace Cool. They might have more of a building attached to it, but I think this is really one of the better looking Elizabeth Towers, even though it might not be historically accurate. All right, Groovers, that brings us to the end of our show, and that means there's one thing for us left to do. With every single Metal Time kit, at least the bigger ones, we get a really cool pin, as you can see right here. We've built quite a few of these so far, and I'm really excited to add this one on here because these kind of mark our building achievements, if you will. Let's see. This is a really cool tiny Elizabeth Tower there. And I think that this lapel is kind of full. So let's move on over here. I know the microphone loves this part of the video. And there we go. All right. I hope you guys enjoyed building the Elizabeth Tower with me, and if you have, don't forget to press that like button. And for more videos like this, hit subscribe as well, as we have all kinds of really cool stuff coming on in the future, and I would love to have you there. Thank you very much to Metal Time for sending me this model to build. They always send the coolest stuff here for me to be able to review, and they always allow my honest opinion, which I think is a really awesome thing for them. Until next time, keep building. And now we're going to put this right front dead center of our collection.